The sky over your X9 was a mix of purple haze and blinking lights. The Great Trade Moon, built from old space stations and alien scrap, was always buzzing. Traders from all corners of the galaxy walked its wide metal streets. Some were small like humans. Others towered like walking mountains. Tomar, a human technician, moved quickly with a scanner in hand. His uniform was plain gray, his belt filled with tools. He was part of a small repair crew, fixing broken machines at the central plaza. Most aliens ignored him, but he didn't mind. Humans were still new to this part of the galaxy. Today's job was to repair a damaged control panel beside the lift gates. The panel sparked from time to time, making the platform unusable. Tamar crouched beside it and opened the hatch. As he worked, a large shadow blocked the sun lamps above. He glanced up and froze. Standing beside him was a Giantess, easily 20 feet tall. Her skin was deep bronze, and her eyes glowed faintly with blue. She wore armor made of thick bone and metal plates. Her black hair was tied back in a long braid that reached past her waist. She looked down at Tamar, but said nothing. Tamar cleared his throat and stood up slowly. Hi, I'll have this fixed soon. Still, no reply. Her gaze stayed on him, serious and silent. He took a quick step back, trying not to look nervous. You're with the Gravialian delegation, right? She gave a small nod. Tomar smiled politely. Well, if I may say so, you carry yourself with strength and grace. The moment he said it, her expression changed. The Giantess straightened, her head tilting slightly. Her eyes narrowed, and her lips pressed into a firm line. Her stance shifted. She now looked at him not like a stranger, but like something far more important. Tamar felt a sudden chill. A deep voice answered, "You speak with purpose. Are you prepared to honor your words?" He blinked. "Sorry, I was just being polite." She stepped forward, towering above him. Other Gravalians nearby turned to look. One of them gave a low whistle and said something in their language. Tamar glanced around, confused. A tall guard wearing red armor walked over and spoke in Galactic Standard. "Human male. You have spoken the right words. Witnesses heard it. The Lady Vesha accepts your offer." "What offer?" Tamar asked. "The courtship bond," the guard replied. "You have made the formal compliment. The trial will begin soon." Tamar raised both hands. Wait, there's been a misunderstanding. I was just saying she looks strong. That's all." The guard did not seem angry, but he looked firm. "Intent does not change tradition. You have said the words. She has accepted. You must now show honor or face exile." Before Tamar could protest again, the guards gently but firmly took his arms. Vesha stepped forward, her voice calm. "Do not fear. You will not be harmed. But duty cannot be ignored." "Duty?" Tamar asked, his voice nearly a squeak. Vesha leaned slightly down. Her face was close now. Her breath smelled of mint and steel. "You have given the phrase of binding. You have caught my eye. The trial will show if you are worthy." Tamar was marched through the crowd, past curious aliens and whispering merchants. He didn't understand most of what they said, but he caught a few words: small one, brave, foolish, and chosen. He was taken to a large hall carved into the side of a cliff. It looked ancient, with glowing symbols across the stone. Inside, the room echoed with voices. Gravialian elders stood around a wide pit with a circle marked on the floor. A short alien with a long scroll read something in a musical tone. Tamar stood in the center, still confused and scared. Vesha entered the hall and removed her armor, revealing a strong but elegant form wrapped in ceremonial cloth. Her expression was calm, unreadable. She spoke loudly. "Let the trial of endurance begin." Tamar took a step back. "Wait, can someone explain the rules?" The same short alien spoke again. "You must stand within the circle as gravity increases. You must remain steady, without falling or crawling. The trial ends when one falls. If you endure longer than the set time, you are accepted." A strange hum filled the air. The circle under his feet began to glow. Tamar immediately felt heavier, like someone had added weights to his shoulders. He clenched his teeth and tried to stay upright. His legs shook. Sweat formed on his forehead. The pressure increased. Vesha stood still beside the ring, her arms crossed. She watched him closely, her face like stone. Tamar's heart pounded. His knees trembled. But he remembered something his old trainer once said: focus on breath, not pain. He breathed slowly. The gravity climbed higher. Tamar groaned, but he didn't fall. After several minutes, the humming stopped. The pressure lifted. Tamar collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. A loud chime rang through the hall. The crowd gave a low roar of approval. The elder read again. The human male has passed the trial of endurance. The bond stands, unless broken, at the city of Stornhal. Tamar barely had time to breathe before Vesha approached him. You have strength inside you, she said softly. Now the path begins. Tamar looked up at her, exhausted and confused. What path? She offered her hand. The path of duty. Morning came slowly on Cinder 9. The second sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky in a soft orange color. Dust hung in the air, and the market stalls slowly opened. Some traders shouted about their new goods. Others were still half asleep, pushing crates into place. Tom stood near Dock 3, leaning against a crate of machine parts. He checked the time on his wrist display. He had been waiting for over 20 minutes. Ships hummed around him. Traders passed by. Still no sign of Ari. He thought maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe she didn't trust him. He wouldn't blame her. Tom pushed himself off the crate and turned to go back to his ship. That's when he saw her. Ari walked slowly toward him. She still wore his jacket. It was far too big for her, but she had tied it tight around her waist. Her hair was tied back now, and she looked more alert than the night before. Still, her steps were careful, like someone walking through water. Tom smiled gently. You made it. Ari looked up. She said nothing at first, then she gave a small nod. Tom pointed to the ramp. Welcome aboard the Kestrel. She hesitated before stepping up. Her eyes scanned everything: other ships, the guards, the towers. Around the docking platform. Once inside the ship, she stood still, as if unsure she was allowed to be there. Tom walked ahead and opened a storage room. It's not big, but it's private. You can sleep here for now. Ari stepped inside. The room had a bunk, a small table, and an old blanket folded on the shelf. Her eyes softened. This was more than she had in weeks. He handed her a bottle of water and a sealed ration pack. Eat. Rest. When you're ready, you can help with cargo. She took the items with both hands and sat on the bunk. Her voice was quiet. Why are you helping me? Tom leaned on the doorframe. Because someone helped me once, when I had nothing. Ari looked down. I don't have anything to give. I'm not asking for anything, he said. She gave a small, confused frown. Then, slowly, she opened the ration pack. Tom stepped out to give her space. Later that day, the Kestrel lifted off the platform. Its engines hummed softly as it climbed through the dusty skies of Cinder 9 and into orbit. Tom sat at the control panel. Ari stood nearby, watching the stars through the side window. She had cleaned up a little, using the water and towel he left for her. Her skin still looked pale, but there was a little more strength in her voice now. Where are we going? She asked. Station Elna. About 6 hours from here. I've got a delivery to make. Old power cells and farming tools. Ari tilted her head. You're a trader? Tom smiled. More like a delivery man with a leaky ship and too many problems. Ari gave a small smile. It was the first time he saw her relax, even for a second. During the trip, Tom showed her the ship's layout. The Kestrel wasn't big, just a cockpit, 2 storage rooms, a small engine room, and a shared kitchen space. Ari followed quietly, but asked good questions. She was smart and picked up things fast. Want to help with inventory? Tom asked. Ari nodded. She spent the next 2 hours checking crates and scanning barcodes. She learned how to use the tablet and even fixed a jam lock on one of the containers. Tom watched her with quiet respect. You've done this before, he asked. My people were settlers, she said. We worked with machines. I used to help my father repair water tanks. Tom paused. What happened to him? Ari didn't answer. She only shook her head. He didn't ask again. That evening, they sat together in the kitchen. Tom had cooked a simple meal from supply packs. The food wasn't great, but it was hot and filling. Ari ate slowly, her back straight, her eyes always checking the walls and doors. It was clear she still wasn't used to safety. "You don't have to worry here," Tom said. "No one's going to hurt you." Ari didn't speak, but she gave a tiny nod. She looked at the jacket again. "This is warm. Thank you. You can keep it," Tom said. "I thought you'd want it back." Tom leaned back. "I've got more. You need it more than I do." There was silence for a while. The hum of the engine filled the room. Then Ari asked, "Do you always help people like this?" Tom shook his head. "No, not always. But I saw someone who needed help, and I couldn't walk away." She looked down at her hands. "Most would. I'm not most," he said simply. "Ours." Later, Ari stood in the small room he had given her. She looked at her reflection in a metal panel. The jacket covered her now, warm and thick. Her face looked different in the reflection. Tired, yes, but not hopeless. She sat on the bunk and touched the wall beside her. It wasn't home, but it was better than the cold floor of the market. Better than being stared at like a thing, for the first time in a long while. She let herself close her eyes and rest without fear. Back in the cockpit, Tom checked the flight path. Everything was smooth. He leaned back in his seat, letting out a breath. He didn't know who Ari really was or what her story would become. But something inside told him this was just the beginning. There was more to her than what he saw in that market. And whatever came next, they would face it together. The stars stretched across the window like rivers of light, and the Kestrel moved forward into the dark, carrying to survivors who had found each other by chance. The docking lights of Luna Station blinked in slow rhythm as the Kestrel approached. It was a small station built on the edge of an icy moon. The metal walls were rusted, but the place was active with trade. Ships came and went. Cargo moved across. Platforms, a few security drones floated near the landing zone. Tom steered the ship with practiced hands and spoke calmly into the comm. "This is Freighter Kestrel, requesting landing Bay 3. A voice replied, "Kestrel, proceed to Bay 3. Prepare for customs scan." Tom looked over at Ari. She sat in the co-pilot seat, hands resting in her lap. Her expression was quiet, but she watched everything. "This place is safe?" she asked. "As safe as any trade stop," Tom replied. "Just stay close." The ship touched down with a soft thud. The engines powered down. Lights on the control board turned green dot as they stepped out. Ari stayed behind Tom. Her eyes scanned the platform, alert for danger. The cold air from the moon seeped in through the walls, and she pulled the jacket tighter. Inside the customs zone, two guards waited, with scanners. One of them, a tall man with a badge and silver gloves, looked at Ari first. "Passenger ID," he said. Tom stepped forward. "She's with me, registered under my name." The guard checked his device, then narrowed his eyes. "You're listed as her sponsor." "Yes," Tom said. "You know what that means, right?" "I do." The guard stared at Ari for a long second, then shrugged and stepped aside. "All right, but if she causes trouble, you'll answer for it." Tom nodded once. "Understood." They passed through without more questions. In the trade office, Tom handed over the crate delivery. It was a small order, farm tools and a power converter. The manager paid him in credits and fuel tokens. While Tom handled paperwork, Ari stood quietly near the wall. A trader nearby, a short alien with green skin and 6 eyes, stared at her for too long. She turned her head, avoiding his gaze. The manager leaned over to Tom. "Watch yourself. That girl is not marked. Some folks around here might think she's fair game." Tom frowned. "She's not for sale." "I didn't say she was. Just be careful. This station still follows old rules." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Old rules?" "Any unregistered outsider without family, clan, or citizenship can be claimed unless they're under formal protection." Tom didn't answer. He understood what that meant. Back at the ship, Ari asked him what the manager said. Tom didn't hide the truth. "This place runs by old trade law. You don't have rights here unless you're sponsored. And you already did that? She said. Double quotes, yes. I filed it back on Cinder 9. I knew someone might try something here. She looked down. Why did you think that far ahead? Tom met her eyes. Because I've seen what happens when no one does. That night, Tom let Ari sleep while he did repairs in the engine room. He replaced a damaged coil and patched him. Fuel line. The hum of the ship was steady, comforting. He didn't notice the sound outside the ship at first. It was only when the outer ramp beeped with a forced unlock warning that he rushed to the front. Ari was already awake. She stood in the hallway, holding a wrench in her hands, tense. What is it? She asked. Someone's trying to override the door, Tom said. He checked the screen. 2 life signs. Not security. No ID tags. Ari's face went pale. It's the green one. From the trade office. He followed us. Tom's hand hovered over the control panel. I can flood the ramp with noise gas. That should send them running. Do it, Ari said quickly. Tom pressed a button. A soft hiss echoed through the ship. On the external camera, the 2 figures near the ramp stumbled and ran coughing back into the shadows. Ari let out a shaky breath. Tom looked at her. You're safe here. I promise. She held the wrench tighter. I don't want to be a problem. You're not. You're part of this crew now. The next morning, Tom went to the station registrar. He paid a fee and filed a second layer of sponsorship, placing Ari's name on the crew list of the Kestrel. It was a small action, but it gave her added legal protection on any station linked to the local network. When he came back, he found her in the engine room, checking fuel levels. You didn't have to do that, she said when he told her. I did it because I wanted to, Tom replied. She gave a small smile. It was the first one he had seen from her that looked real. You treat me like I matter. Tom leaned against the doorway. You do. They left Lunar Station with no trouble. The next destination was a small moon station called Terra's Reach. It was known for its quiet ports and clean atmosphere, far from the crowded trade lanes. As the ship sailed through space, Ari spent more time in the cockpit. She began learning how to read maps and identify signal beacons. Tom showed her how to adjust course and check for signal drift. You're good at this, he said after she corrected a nav path. I like learning, she replied. That night, while going through her small bag of items, Ari found something at the bottom she had almost forgotten. A small, cracked memory crystal. She held it up and stared. It was dim, but still powered. Her hand shook slightly. Tom saw her sitting with it in the kitchen. What's that? He asked. She looked up. Something from my family. I think it is part of our colony's last map stored inside. Tom's expression changed. Can I see it? Ari nodded and handed it to him. He placed it into the ship's reader. The screen blinked. A star map appeared. It showed the known sectors, but then zoomed into an unmarked area near the Eris Divide. Far beyond the usual routes, there was a blinking marker, a symbol, a data code attached to it. Tom leaned forward. This isn't just a map. This could be a hidden mineral source. Something powerful, Ari whispered. It was what my people were protecting. Tom looked at her. If this is real, we need to be careful. Others would want it. She nodded slowly. But it could help rebuild what we lost. He looked at her, serious. Then we'll go together. But we need to stay ahead of anyone else. And just like that, the quiet journey changed. They were no longer just traveling for food or trade. Now, they had something others might chase. The stars outside the Kestrel blinked softly as the ship moved through open space. Inside, the air felt quiet but not heavy. Tom sat at the main control desk, checking the route toward the Eris Divide. Across from him, Ari was busy organizing supplies in a storage cabinet. They had talked little since discovering the memory crystal. Both of them were thinking about the same thing, what the map meant and what it could bring. Tom closed the navigation screen and turned toward her. We'll need fuel and food before heading toward that part of space. The Eris Divide is too far to risk with half supplies. Ari looked up. Where can we restock? Tom opened a drawer and pulled out a small trade list. There's a small moon outpost called Rello 5. It's quiet. I've done jobs there before. Ari nodded. Will we take cargo again? Tom smiled slightly. Yes, I already accepted a job. Tools, medicine, and clean water units. The station on Relo 5 is struggling after a recent storm. I'll help pack it, Ari said. You always do. They both smiled softly, but genuinely. 2 hours later, the Kestrel landed on Relo 5, a rocky moon covered in white dust. The small outpost was mostly underground, hidden beneath silver domes. The landing pad was simple. Just metal plates placed on the open ground. A tall man named Bryn met them near the cargo lift. He had oil-stained clothes, a beard, and a tired smile. Tom, Bryn said, still flying that old crate she's holding together. Tom replied, barely. Bryn laughed and looked at Ari. And who's this? She's my crew, Tom said, serious. Bryn didn't ask more. He led them toward the cargo warehouse. Inside, workers were loading boxes onto hoverlifts. Ari stepped forward to help without being asked. She moved crates, scanned codes, and checked the labels. Bryn noticed and raised an eyebrow. She's sharp. She is, Tom replied proudly, after 2 hours. The cargo was packed and secured. Tom signed the documents and received his payment mostly in supply packs and fuel units. While leaving the warehouse, Ari paused. Across the hallway, 3 rough-looking men stood near a parked hauler. One of them glanced at her, then whispered something to the others. They all looked out. Ari lowered her head and walked faster. Tom noticed her change in pace. Everything all right? He asked. I think they recognized me, she said softly. Tom stopped and looked back. The 3 men were still standing there, watching the ship. Let's get moving, he said. Back on the Kestrel, the engines warmed up, but just before liftoff, an alert beeped on the dashboard. Unidentified signal near rear panel. The computer said. Tom frowned and brought up the camera. One of the men from the warehouse was placing something near the back engine, a tracker. Tom muttered. He switched to loudspeaker mode and activated a warning alarm. The man ran off, disappearing behind the station wall. Tom sighed and looked at Ari. Looks like someone wants to follow us. We can't lead them to the map, she said quickly. We won't, Tom replied, but now we know someone's watching. He turned the ship in a different direction and sent out 3 false jump signals to confuse the tracker. The real jump would take them to a nearby planet with a heavy radiation field perfect for hiding. They landed on Core 7, a dark world with red skies and rocky valleys. Old mining towers stood broken across the land. Most of the settlements were long abandoned. Inside a metal hangar, Tom and Ari checked the ship for bugs. After a full scan, they found a second device hidden under the landing gear. Ari held it in her hands. They put the trackers on us, Tom nodded. They're serious. Someone must have overheard us at a LunarBond station. News about that crystal is spreading. What do we do now? She asked. Tom stared at the map again. We need to leave soon. But first, we'll make it look like we're headed to a different sector. Ari frowned. You're trying to trick them. Yes, let them chase empty signals while we go round the long path. She smiled a little. You're smarter than you look. Tom laughed. Don't let the messy hair fool you. That night, they sat in the kitchen again. Ari had warmed up soup packs, and Tom cleaned the engine grease off his hands. Why do you keep helping me? Ari asked suddenly. Tom looked at her. Because I trust you. She blinked. You barely know me. I know you've had chances to run, and you didn't. I know you could have left me in the market when I was fixing the engine under the heat. But you stayed and passed me tools. That's enough. Ari stared at her bowl. Where I'm from, people only help when there was something to gain, Tom said. That's not the only way to live. She looked up and nodded. I want to believe that. In the next 2 days, they made quiet progress. Ari trained more on the controls, learning how to set course corrections. Tom taught her how to manage life support systems and emergency shields each day. She grew more confident, but every system check reminded them that time was short. Other ships were still searching. Their signal was being hunted. They needed to reach the Eris Divide before anyone else. At the final jump point before the outer sector, Tom sat Ari down at the console. You'll make the jump this time, he said. Ari's hands hovered above the controls. You sure? You're ready. She took a deep breath and tapped the command. The engines lit up, and the stars outside stretched across the view. The ship surged forward through hyperspace. Tom smiled. Perfect. Ari turned and smiled back. For the first time since the day he met her, she looked strong, she looked free, and deep in her pocket, the crystal map blinked softly, still holding the secret to a future neither of them fully understood yet. The Kestrel flew through open space, engines humming like a calm wind. Tom sat in the pilot's chair, looking at the glowing path ahead. Ari was beside him, her eyes focused on the console screen, tracking fuel, shield, and temperature levels. They had left Core 7 behind, tricked the trackers, and now moved toward the final stretch, the Eris Divide. But the real mystery had not been solved. The crystal Ari kept in her pocket still blinked. Its strange blue light pulsed at random moments. Tom had studied it for days, but something about it stayed hidden. This crystal doesn't just carry a map, Tom said. It's too advanced. Ari pulled it out and placed it on the table. The moment it touched the surface, the lights dimmed and a small beam of light came out from it. A symbol appeared in the air. Not a map this time, but something else, a round object with symbols spinning around it. What is that? Ari whispered. Tom leaned forward. It looks like a planet. Maybe not in our charts. The crystal glowed brighter, and then a voice spoke. It wasn't loud, but it filled the room like it came from every direction. If you have found this, then I am gone. But my people are waiting. The city of Saloon must rise again. Ari gasped. The voice continued. This map leads to the key. The gate must be opened before the eclipse, or Saloon will be lost forever. Then the light faded. The crystal went silent. Tom sat back. That was a message from someone who created it? Ari asked. Yes, and Saloon is not just a place. It's something important. Ari looked down. What's the gate? What eclipse? Tom stood and grabbed the ship's data pad. He typed quickly, searching the word Saloon. Nothing appeared in human records. Then he searched in ancient galactic data. A small report came up. Saloon, lost civilization, believed destroyed. During the outer collapse, no planet listed. Ari asked. Tom shook his head. No, just myths. Nothing solid. Ari leaned back in her chair. So we're chasing a ghost? Tom looked at her. Or we're the first to find proof it's real? 3 hours later, the Kestrel exited hyperspace near a large asteroid belt. A red sun glowed in the distance. Beyond the belt, the Eris Divide spread like a giant wall of dust and shadow. Tom turned the ship slowly and hovered above the edge. This is it. The crystal was pointing here. Ari stared at the wide darkness. There's nothing out there, she said. Tom touched the screen. Not visible. But we'll use the deep scan. He activated a long-range pulse. A soft wave moved through the space ahead. A few seconds later, something flickered on the screen. A shape? Ari sat up. Is that a station? Tom nodded. It's large, maybe the size of a city. The scan finished. The result came back. Status, power down, organic signs, none. Metal structure detected. Tom leaned closer. It's real. There's a city floating in the divide. Saloon, Ari whispered. Tom looked at her. Let's check it out. The Kestrel moved slowly into the divide. The dust around them made everything feel quiet and strange. Signals dropped in and out. The city grew clearer. Tall spires, domes, and bridges stretched across the open space. But no lights, no movement. They stopped outside a docking port. It looked old, but still strong. Tom powered down the ship and grabbed 2 oxygen packs. He handed one to Ari. Just in case. We don't know how the air is inside. Ari nodded. I'll follow your lead. They stepped into the airlock and floated across a metal tunnel. The air inside was stale but breathable. Machines lined. The walls, all broken. They reached a wide chamber. A huge gate stood in front of them, metal arms wrapped in golden vines. Ari stepped forward. This looks like the gate from the message. Tom touched the surface. The crystal in Ari's pocket glowed and began to float. It moved on its own and locked into the gate's center. Lights burst around the room. The floor shifted. The gate opened slowly, Inside, the chamber was filled with light, showing thousands of crystal panels and floating orbs. It looked like a memory room filled with preserved knowledge. Then, a voice echoed again. You are the first in 3,000 cycles. The Guardian has returned. Tom looked at Ari. Guardian? She pointed at a glowing panel. A figure appeared, someone who looked like her, but older. Blue skin, soft features, and a calm expression. This was my people, she said. Before we were sold, before we were hunted. Tom understood. This city, this place, it was where her ancestors came from. He looked at her. You're not lost anymore. They spent hours exploring the room. The walls showed images of stars, maps, ancient battles, and knowledge that was hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Ari touched one of the panels. It showed her planet before it was taken over. She turned to Tom. This place remembers. He nodded. And maybe it can protect. They left the chamber and returned to the Kestrel. The crystal stayed inside the gate, now glowing with steady light. As the ship pulled away, the city lit up just a little. One tower blinked. One dome opened. Something inside Saloon was waking up. Inside the ship, Ari sat beside the window. Tom brought her a warm drink. You all right? She looked at him. I thought I had nothing. No name, no family, no hope. But now, you have history, Tom said. Ari nodded. And maybe a future. He sat beside her. We'll make sure of that. Outside, the stars moved past slowly. But ahead of them, a new journey was forming. Saloon had returned to the galaxy. And Ari was no longer just a survivor. She was its voice. The Kestrel floated in the quiet edge of the divide. Behind it, the lost city of Saloon was now glowing softly like a sleeping giant. The stars had returned. But something had changed. Inside the ship, Ari sat alone in the crew quarters, staring at her reflection in a small round mirror. Her fingers brushed against the side of her neck, where a new mark had appeared after the crystal entered the gate. A glowing pattern shaped like a star and a circle. It wasn't painful, just strange. Tom walked in holding the steaming mugs. You haven't said a word since we left, he said. Offering her one. Ari took it slowly. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Tom sat across from her. What do you mean? She looked down at the floor. All my life, I thought I was just another lost soul. Then I find out I'm from a people who built cities in space, who had knowledge and power. He waited. Ari looked up. And I don't even have a name. Not a real one. Tom blinked. You don't? She shook her head. The traders never asked. They just called me girl or slave. The people in the market used other words. I don't even remember what my parents called me. Tom leaned forward. Then it's time you choose your own. Ari's eyes met his. Choose. Yeah, he said. Pick a name. One that belongs to you, not to anyone else. She thought for a long moment. Then, her voice was soft. Zara. It feels warm. Tom smiled. Zara it is. She repeated it quietly. Zara. The mark on her neck glowed a little brighter, like it accepted the name too. Later, they returned to the crystal chamber and saloon. The lights welcomed them. The air had grown lighter. Morbi or EATHABLE. Zara stood tall now. She no longer hunched her shoulders or avoided the mirrors. She moved like someone finding her place. The gate opened as they approached. This time, the voice was different. It spoke in a softer tone. Guardian identified. Bloodline confirmed. The heart of Saloon is ready. Tom looked at her. They mean you? Zara stepped inside. Then let's find out what that means. The walls of the chamber changed. New paths opened, revealing what had been hidden before. The lights showed large rooms, tall ceilings, and machines that hummed with old power. At the center, a large throne-shaped platform floated above a glowing pool. Zara stepped toward it. The voice returned. Zara of Saloon, your choice is heard. Your name is accepted. Will you take the burden of the past and guide the future? Tom watched from behind. You don't have to. Zara looked at him and smiled. I want to. She stepped onto the platform. The lights rose. The crystal in the gate pulsed like a heart. Then everything went quiet. When she opened her eyes, she stood in a dream-like space. Stars circled her. She wasn't in the city anymore. Not really. A soft figure appeared. A woman with blue skin. Like hers. Wearing robes covered in golden patterns. I am Alira, first of Saloon. I left this memory for the one who would return. Zara stood still, breathing slow. Eli Ross spoke. We were not just builders. We were keepers of peace. But others feared. US, and we were betrayed. Zara listened. The map you carry, the knowledge in the gate. It was hidden to protect the last light of our people. Alira walked closer. And now you, with human help, have returned to wake that light. Zara whispered, what do I do? You lead. You protect. You remember. And when the time comes, you decide what rises next. Alira smiled and faded. Zara woke up in the chamber. Tom was holding her hand. You were gone for minutes, he said. But the crystal says hours passed. Zara looked around. I saw her. The one who started it all. She stood up. I know what I need to do. Back on the ship, they checked the galaxy map. Tom pointed. The next star system. The signal goes there. Maybe another part of Saloon. Zara nodded. Pieces of the old world scattered across the stars. We collect them. We learn from them. Tom grinned. You're sounding like a captain. She looked at him. You helped me survive. Now let me help others. He nodded. I'm with you. They flew across 3 systems in the next few days. Each place had ruins or broken satellites. Some gave messages. Some gave warnings. But one thing was clear: Saloon was once everywhere. And now, it was waking up again. In one system, they found a broken ring station. Inside was a library, scrolls of light, music from a forgotten language. Zara sat with tears in her eyes, listening. This was our voice. Tom saved every file, every word. They were building more than knowledge. They were building home. One night, after scanning a small moon base, they sat outside the ship under the stars. Zara pointed upward. Do you think people like me will ever be free again? Tom looked at her. You're already free. The rest will follow you. She leaned back, arms behind her head. I was ready to give away everything just to eat. Now I carry the hope of a civilization. Tom nodded. Strange how things change. Zara smiled. You still have that same jacket. Tom glanced down. It's lucky. She laughed softly. Maybe I was lucky too. The stars above flickered gently, a quiet sky, but full of stories waiting to be told. And in that quiet, the girl with no name had become something more. Zara of Saloon. The kestrel moved steadily through quiet space. Ahead, the stars of the Lyra system shone bright. Tom sat at the controls, hands steady. Beside him, Zara watched the screen, a calm but determined light in her eyes. They had traveled far. They had found pieces of Saloon, the lost city of her people. But the journey was not over. Here it is, Tom said softly, pointing to a small planet wrapped in clouds and green land. This is where the last message came from. Zara nodded. The heart of Saloon. The ship passed through the atmosphere and landed gently in a clearing surrounded by tall trees. The air was warm and fresh. A soft breeze carried the smell of flowers. Zara stepped out first. The ground felt alive beneath her boots. She breathed deep. This place, she said, feels like home. Tom followed, scanning the area. They walked toward a large stone gate covered in ancient writing. The gate was cracked but still strong. Zara reached out and touched the symbols. The crystal from the ship glowed in her hand. The gate opened slowly, revealing a hidden path lined with glowing plants and soft light inside. They found ruins of tall towers and great halls covered in moss and vines, but still majestic. Statues of her ancestors stood guard. Zara felt a warmth inside. This is where it began, and where it will begin again. As they explored, they found a chamber deep beneath the ruins. The walls were covered in images, stories of peace, science, and unity. Tom read aloud. Our people believe knowledge was the greatest power, but only when shared. Zara smiled. That is the message we must carry forward. Suddenly, the ground shook slightly. Lights in the chamber flickered. Zara looked up, surprised. A soft hum filled the room. The crystal in her hand grew brighter. A hidden console lit up. Zara stepped forward and touched it. The room filled with hologram stars, ships, and cities. The history of Saloon appeared before them, alive and moving. A voice echoed through the chamber. Guardian Zera, you have awakened the legacy. The time has come to rebuild, to unite the lost, to protect the future. Zera stood tall. I accept. Days passed as Zera and Tom worked to activate the old systems. They repaired the energy cores and awakened the ancient technology. The plants around the ruins glowed brighter. Animals returned to the forest. The land seemed to heal. Zera sent messages to nearby colonies and tribes. She called for peace and cooperation. Slowly, replies came. People who had forgotten hope answered her call. On the final day before they planned to leave, a group appeared at the ruins' edge: humans, aliens, and former traders. They came with gifts and tools, ready to help. Zera welcomed them. We build together, she said. This is our home now. Tom watched her and knew she had grown from a lost girl into a true leader. As night fell, the sky filled with stars. Zera and Tom sat outside, looking at the galaxy spread above. Zera whispered, I was ready to give up everything for food and safety. Now, I carry a new future for my people. Tom smiled. You showed them what it means to never stop, to never lose hope. Zera looked at him. Thank you for stepping in when I needed it most. Tom laughed softly. We all need someone. They sat quietly, the galaxy around them full of endless possibility. The dawn was coming. The Kestrel prepared to leave the planet. Zera stood at the landing pad, holding the glowing crystal. She looked at the stars and felt her heart steady. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a guardian, a leader, and a light for many. Her journey was just beginning.